Thank you. Good evening, friends. This is a continuation of what we've been studying. Last time, that is last Friday, we began on temperance and didn't finish. So this is what I will finish, then get to the next law of health. Temperance, as we said, I want to remind us, is to abstain completely, entirely from what is not healthful, and using in moderation that which is healthy. So I would want us to look at John chapter 15, verse 5, where the Bible tells us, and this is Jesus' words. He said, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. When we talk of temperance, when we talk of healthful living, we need to know that this is a requirement from above. God has commanded us to do these things. And it's good to be reminded of what Jesus said, that without him, we cannot do anything. I have, over the years in the church, I have had this sentiment where it is said that certain people have, or rather are practicing, dry reform, or, also called, instead of reforming, they are said to have deformed. That is to try and, carry out healthy reform without Jesus Christ, in as the center of one's life. So it's important that we be reminded of John 15, verse 5. Philippians 4, verse 13, Paul says that I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. So Philippians 4, 13 is agreeing with John 15, verse 5. Yes, it is true. All these harmful food activities create cravings that gradually widen and get stronger. The person who starts using just a little of any one of them will gradually find himself using more and more, and then branching out to the other parts of the cycle until the poor craving victim can no longer enjoy simple, natural, healthy food, but must be striving to satisfy the unnatural cravings these harmful things have set in action in his body. I've come across people in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and more so good ladies, more so those that are in the cities and well-to-do parts of life, that use a bit of wine. They say, little wine that even Paul advocates. So over time, you take a little wine after meal to help in digestion, and wine, because it's an alcoholic beverage, it has some amount of alcohol. Before you know it, now you want to empty the whole bottle in one evening, and from wine you graduate to now the hot liquor. So when he can no longer gain relief through these indulgences, he often resorts to tobacco, street drugs, prescription drugs for his nerves. His health breaks down. He feels hungry and craving most of the time, but only seeks more of the harmful substances he now calls food. He can no longer enjoy food that would nourish his abused body. What a pitiful slavery. Nobody began to do the thing they do. Those that are in, substance abuse. No one began with a whole bottle of whiskey or a whole crate of beer. They began with have a glass, and they graduated to the drunkards that they have become. Let's look at what are the craving slave masters. Things that we use in the house, and we do not, know, or we have not known that should not be used. And these are spices, and also called, another branch of spices. You may call them condiments. Spices, anything that tastes hot when it is cold. This includes hot peppers, hot sauces, cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, mustard, horseradish, chilies, large amounts of ginger, etc. These burn and scar the mucosa of the digestive system and interfere with nutrient absorption. They also destroy the ability to taste the delicate natural flavor of food. They also affect the disposition, making the user irritable, impatient, and quick-tempered. Substitute various herbs, onions, and garlic. So instead of using these herbs, herbs that we know are good, the likes of parsley and onion and garlic and even ginger, when taken moderately, people go for hot spices. Harmful condiments, anything containing spices and or vinegar. Vinegar, we know that there is good vinegar, the apple cider vinegar, but of course it also has its, right place at the table. But the vinegar that I'm talking about here, and which is quite harmful and used quite a bit, is the white vinegar. This includes all pickles, relishes, ketchup, more sauces in bottles, more salad dressings, etc., etc. You go to the supermarket and you find all these things. And they are quite popular in sauce making. These destroy the liver and also sour the disposition. Even a quarter teaspoon of vinegar on a meal will seriously impair its indigestion and promote fermentation, especially of starches. It is not unusual for cirrhosis of the liver to develop in vinegar users, even if they do not use alcohol. One who wants to put vinegar in their food, especially the salad, one should consider using lemon juice, lime juice, garlic and onion, but especially garlic and onion in moderation. Nutritional yeast and yeast extract. Nutritional yeast is also called natural yeast. The other thing is sugar, that is sugar and more so, refined sugar and refined flour. So sugar has its own issues, very serious implications in health matters when we use it in its refined, refined condition or refined status. But we can once in a while use good honey, dates, sultanas, and stevia, etc. These are good and natural sources of sugar, even sugarcane and sugarcane juice. We should also keep away from meat, and meat in this country, my country, Kenya, there are people who come from the lake region, and they are very, either if not the lake region, at the coast, in the Indian Ocean, and because of their proximity to large bodies of water, so fish has become part of their diet, and so they are very good in classifying meat to be meat from animals like cows and goats, but fish for them is not meat. Chicken meat is not meat. But the truth of the matter is, meat is, from all manner of animals. It includes all flesh products, the worst being pork and beef. Flesh foods nowadays also have the additional hazard of animal diseases that can be transmitted to man. Antibiotics in the flesh from the feed of the animals, and sex and growth stimulating hormones fed to the animals. If the hormones fatten the beasts, what will they do to your waistline? Children who have been fed on meat from very young, and even cow milk, they grow with, I mean, they definitely will be different from a vegetarian child. Cheese also contains the addictive substance calamine, like caffeine. It is addictive and also interferes with proper function of the brain cells. Do not be surprised when somebody chooses to, even in church, to teach during a health day, to tackle meat, the questions that that are thrown at him, more so in the afternoon in a Bible study, you'll find that those people that ask those questions, many a times they do not ask for, for the purpose of knowledge. For the purpose of knowledge, but it's like to bring up an argument, and more so even a very agitated argument. So when you see that, do not wonder why it's the case. Meat eating brings some, meat and cheese, animal products can have, a very, a grip on the user. How to obtain divine help over tobacco or other harmful habits. It's important. We tell people to, to reform, but there are those that tell us they have tried, but it has proven difficult. So it's a spiritual warfare, and there is need to acquaint oneself with these tactics. One, realize that you need help to be free from tobacco. That is John 15, verse 5, and Jeremiah 33, verse 3. Two, it is also important that one should know that God desires to provide this help to such a person. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Three, acknowledge your need and your willingness to come to God and fully cooperate with Him in causing a complete change to happen in your life. That is Matthew 11, verses 28 to 30, where Jesus tells me and you, come to me, you who is heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. So the other one is that also God, the word of God tells us in Matthew 23, verse 10, that God will, as the true master, will will fight the battle for me. This can only happen if you have a change of mind. Confess your guilt and ask for release from the guilt and power of tobacco. That is 1 John chapter 1, verse 9. The Bible asks, does anybody need help? Would one confess of their sins? And God is a faithful Savior. He will come to their rescue. Ask for divine help to be set free from tobacco and other habits. Matthew 7, verses 7 and 8. Choose to believe that God will fulfill His word to give you perfect freedom over bad habits. Mark 9, verses 22 and 23. Spend some time spend some time fixing the divine promises in your memory. These promises will bring power into your life when you are assailed by perverted, or by, that perversion. This is the weapon that Jesus himself used when he was tempted on appetite. So, those verses that I've read and many, many others that are in the Bible, we are told that the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation has more than 3,500 promises. So equip your memory with as many such promises as you can remember, and recite them quite often. Then I would want us to consider Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 to 8, where the Bible tells us that, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 and 8. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Genesis 2, verse 7. So the most essential element to sustain life is oxygen. If that being the case, then we know that we cannot we cannot, we need, we need a lot of oxygen, we need a lot of, to feed the mind. So my point is that as you who is going through these difficult times, there is need to go out there, exercise, breathe in fresh air, strengthen your mind. As I said, this is a spiritual war, and God will give you victory. I would want to finish with temperance at that point, but not before I share with all of us this last point. Express your joy verbally. Thank God for helping you to control your appetite. That is Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 to 7. So, my brother, my sister, victory is ours if only we reach out for it in Jesus' name, because God desires to help his children, more so those that are in need. From that point, would anybody want to throw in a word? May it be a question, may it be a comment. Evening.
Really, it's I need the help from you with concern with the spice. Especially in my house here in South Africa, we don't eat food with that spice in. So 3 daughters, they love spice. And then I actually know what's going on. That spice is a silent killer. Now, what kind of strategy that I can use in order for that my family to know, to understand that this kind of food is not good for, it is a harmful food and is not good for us to eat. There isn't a strategy that I can use. And the worst thing is that I don't know how to cook. Really, I don't know how to cook. But through this course, I have a knowledge that this is not good, this is not good. But before I did enjoy the food. So what can I do in order to reform my kitchen, in order to let my family know that, okay, this is not a really good food that we can eat? Because without spice, they don't eat food. When there is spice, they feel good, and So I just need your help on it, and I'm so happy that I start knowing the the thing that I never knew, the food that's good and the food which is not good. So
Thank you,
now
brother.
I'm in a such a position where I know what's good, what's bad. Now, how to influence my family?
Thank you, brother. To begin with, are you able to, uh, to access what is being projected on the screen?
Yes,
So you are able to read that.
yes,
Craving slave masters, under the title Spices, anything that tastes hot when it's cold. Okay.
yes.
Um, then thank you. Anyone would want to throw in something to my brother? We are all students and we are all teachers at the same time.
All right, thank you. So actually what you must understand, like the way Brother Kahi was explained, there are some spices which are not supposed to be taken oftenly, like these that have been mentioned here. Of course, you can take ginger, you can take cinnamon when you're sick to relieve some certain illnesses, but these are not to be taken often because I think even me, I'm allergic to garlic. Whenever I eat garlic, it always irritates my digestive juices and makes my digestion or absorption of nutrients not to happen in a proper way. So I discovered that there are things that I do not need to take like on a daily basis, like some other spices, because they will react to my digestive system and thus interfere with my nutrient absorption. So in some cases where I'm sick and I'm compelled to drink ginger, of course, I can drink because I know it will help me to relieve some certain illnesses, even though it will injure my digestive system. But in a case where I'm taking it every day, then it becomes a problem and it may cause a serious injury to my body or my system. So you have to know which spices can be taken on a daily basis and which ones are to be taken when you are ill or maybe occasionally once in a while, because they help in also, even though they cause some damage, but they injure some parts of our bodies. So you must understand that and help maybe your family to understand that you explain to them, maybe they have got this condition where maybe they complain of maybe digestive or digestion problem. Maybe they have some stomach complications or irritable bowel movement because of the spices that they have been eating. So you have to explain to them. Maybe one of them will tell you saying, "Yeah, yes, I've been having this condition of the stomach, or I've been having these irritations." And now you can explain to them saying, "No, it is because I've been taking these spices like on a daily basis, which is wrong and can injure some certain parts of the body." Hope I've tried to explain, answer your question.
Yes, of
My
course.
brother, to add to what Brother Inos is saying, I don't know, you may have visited these Indian restaurants and either tasted or saw Indian cuisines. There's a lot of hot pepper and, the chili, and they're very, very hot. So just as this sentence, this subheading reads, anything that is hot, tastes hot, while actually it's cold. That is the cayenne, the peppers, the chili, the ginger, the cinnamon, cardamom, those garlic. These are to be taken, as Enos has said, cautiously, because they have their medicinal purpose, benefits. But the idea of having them on a daily basis is wrong, because they become, stomach irritant. For your information, garlic is a very strong antibiotic, and like any other antibiotic, more so, even the conventional antibiotics, Vancida, I don't know which other, these drugs. No doctor will be kind to you if he knew that you are taking those antibiotics, anyhow, carelessly. So when we have garlic on a daily basis, it will get to a point it becomes now harmful. So that's the point. Let's go easy on the spices, and we should know which spices. But there is what is called in English, what do you call it? In my local language, in Swahili, we call it dania. Dania is actually coriander. Coriander is a spice, but a good one. Parsley, you can have these as much as you want. I don't foresee a problem with that. But the hot ones, as just the topic has read, the subtitle there should be taken cautiously. Any other?
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I want to make a point here.
Please.
Well, according to the spices, I cook with natural spices. I do not use the spices that they sell in the market, like those powder spices. They have different colors, and they have so much salt added to them. These are some of the spices that people love to use, especially at the roadside kitchen. Those restaurants, they love to use a lot of these spices to add to their meats and their cookings. And so those spices are very dangerous. They are dangerous because they are full of sodium and acids. And so when you consume the food that those spices are used to cook, your digestive system will be affected greatly. But using your thyme, your onion and your garlic in moderation, and your ginger in moderation, and your cayenne pepper or your chili pepper in moderation, they are good. They are good. You must not overload your cooking with so much pepper that you can hardly enjoy your meal. Some people cook with these vast amounts of peppers that you have to be fun in the mouth to heat some food. That is dangerous. But giving your food a little pepper, not much, a little onion, a little garlic, not much, I don't see the harm in it, but the harm is do not overdo. Because you know, when I was a child, my grandmother and my mother, they use the seasoning, the onion, the garlic, the thyme, the scallion, for their cooking, and they did not overdo it, and everything was just fine. But nowadays they have these what you call factory made spices, you know, and so they load their food with it. The foods are loaded with it, and some people cannot cook without it. They go to the shops and they have to be buying them because they think that if they do not use it, their food won't have that taste that they desire, or you know, be nutritious. But those spices are very dangerous. So our natural spices are good ones. Only please don't overdo them. Do it moderately. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, sister. Actually, what to concur with what my sister has said there is what I had said earlier, that these spices can be as addictive as you know, as any other drug, you know, as a drug. And so when you haven't put those spices and in, you know, and to that level, you find the food is tasteless. So let's avoid, you know, we are told that the word of God has given us liberty. We should not be addicted to anything other than the love of God. Let's go to air. Fresh air is, pure fresh air is very important. That means good air with lots of oxygen. Walking in the forests and nature is great. Do deep breathing exercise daily in the morning. Remember, we had said that earlier, you know, those that may be in this class and they happen to have been in our first class, we said, you know, morning air is actually very good, and more so when you connect this with exercise. So even in winter, have windows open a little, just a little bit for those that live in winter zones, just to have fresh air get into the room. Avoid smoke, chemicals, sprays, and strong perfumes. So why is fresh air, pure fresh air, important? We are told that the most essential element to sustain life is oxygen. One can go without food, you know, for a couple of weeks, you know, for them to die. One can go for a couple of days without water for them to die. But one would only need very few minutes to go without fresh air, or air for that matter, for one to die. Blood and cells are dependent upon fresh air. So fresh air invigorates the vital organs and aids the system in ridding itself of accumulated impurities. Fresh air also brings life to the skin and has a decided influence on the mind. Fresh air contains negative ions, which help to immune system, helps the immune system to fight disease. The lack of fresh air causes specific problems such as fevers, colds, and lung diseases. Sister White in Testimonies, Volume 2, page 67 and 68, tells us the stomach, liver, lungs, and brain are suffering for want of deep, full inspirations of air, which would rectify the blood and impact it to it a bright livery color, and which alone can keep it pure and give tone and vigor to every part of the living machine. So the counsel or the advice here is that in the morning, we need to step out and breathe deeply to expel all the air in our lungs. And the idea is that while out in the open, you breathe in through the nose and hold to the count of 1 to 10, then breathe out through the mouth to the count of 20, going up to 30, and you repeat that, maintaining the count, the count from 1 to 10 for, when you have held the air in your lungs, but breathing out slowly, you repeatedly increase your counting, see whether you are able to reach 100 and 150. That is it's called a deep breathing exercise, and that encourages the strengthening of one's lungs. The inside of the lungs resembles a sponge. All of these tiny pockets, about 30 million in number, provide over 70 square yards of surface area for the exchange of gases in and out of the bloodstream. An adult breathes, an adult breathes about 16%, or rather 16 times per minute, taking in about 1 pint of air per breath. This intake adds to about 2,000 gallons of air per day. During normal breathing, this air travels at about 50 miles per hour, but during a sneeze or cough, it can reach up to 750 miles per hour. 750 miles per hour is, I would imagine that is the speed of a superjet. We are encouraged to, to breathe in and deeply, to inhale deeply, and then breathe out. A good vital capacity is related to a greater life expectancy. Several factors can affect a person's vital capacity: smoking, air pollution, posture, exercise, obesity, and shallow breathing. Brothers and sisters, it's important that we understand the danger of smoking. I see very young people learning how to smoke, especially boys. learning how to smoke, going into the smoking habit. But I'm even more saddened when I see ladies smoke, given that when a woman smokes, and more so a childbearing, a woman in childbearing age, they expose the children that they will get to very difficult lives. So smoking should be discouraged a lot, but there is more to smoking, because many a times we only see the problem of smoking, that is first-hand smoking, not knowing that the second-hand smoking is even worse. And this is where you live with a smoker. You, being a Christian, you don't smoke, but your husband smokes, your wife smokes, an uncle smokes, a neighbor smokes, and they pollute the corridor, or whatever it is you meet, or a colleague in the office smokes, etc., etc. Or in some countries, smoking is not controlled. You find people smoking in public transport, like in the bus, in the train, etc. So it is also important that we get to know about our sitting posture. Oh, how I wish I had enough time to talk about sitting posture. You find people who sit anyhow, they hunch a lot while seated, when seated down, or even walking. We ought to walk straight with our head high, shoulders high. When we sit down, we need to sit with our, with our chairs that hold our backs properly. Because, my posture, sitting posture or walking posture, determines how well my breathing will become, depending on how relaxed my lungs are, and the entire rib cage, the chest cage. So posture, the exercise, obesity, and shallow breathing. We said there is need to breathe deeply. For the person who smokes, the dangers are listed on the cigarette packages themselves: lung cancer, emphysema, and carbon monoxide poisoning, among many that we can put forward. In pregnant women, these poisons cross the placenta and harm the fetus. Cancer-producing tars blacken the lungs. Marijuana smoke has many of the same health-damaging effects, plus some that are unique to marijuana, specifically. Its active ingredient, THC, stays in the body longer than any other drug. With continued use, it builds up in the fatty tissues, especially in the brain and in the testes and ovaries. These are substances that we use, but have lifetime effect, and not only on ourselves, but even in our offspring. Other things that we need to look into are bacteria, molds, fungi, house mites, and other disease-producing organisms that have a hard time multiplying in rooms that are not well kept, and that are not airy. So molds, and many a times, because of where one lives, more so in the city, and not well-to-do areas of the city, you will find that some apartments are quite congested, and the ventilation and the architecture is poor. So the rooms are tiny, and the windows are small, and somebody has retired to their abode for the night. During the night is when the body really needs fresh air, because it's when the system fights disease for those that are sick, and the healthy ones, the body replenishes the body cells, and the skin, etc., the tissues and the cells. So oxygen is really needed. And here you have molds and fungi that are polluting the air. You'll find that even the rooms that are tiny, again, people have heaped all manner of clothes, especially dirty clothes in the bedroom, and that is a problem. You will find a bathroom that is not airy, and so when somebody has taken a shower in the morning, the whole day it didn't dry up. In the evening, it's still wet, and over time, 2, 3, 4 days, now mold begin to form, and they pollute the entire house. How about our kitchen? Every kitchen will generate garbage because of the manner of the places that we live, and they are tiny. Then we live with our garbage inside the house, and probably this garbage is collected once a week. So a whole week garbage that is in the house, and a tiny house for that matter, tiny room for that matter, you can imagine the effect. If you live in the city, the early morning hours usually have the cleanest air. It is also a good idea to take advantage of clear days by getting outdoors. The best way to escape air pollution is to live in the country. To give you an idea as to the potential differences in air quality, mid-Pacific Ocean air contains about 15,000 particles per cubic inch of air, as compared to 5 million in big cities. In summary, when the air is bad, try not to breathe it. That point will not be overemphasized. So there is something else that makes fresh air fresh besides oxygen and the absence of pollutants, and that is the type of ionization in the air. Ions are tiny, rectified particles of matter. Fresh air may contain between 2 to 3 million ions in each breath, which is 5 to 10 times more than stale air. So what we are saying is, what we are saying here is that oxygen usually carries a negative charge and carbon dioxide a positive charge. Aerospace research and experience has suggested that air ionization is in itself a health factor apart from the oxygen content alone. So if that is the case, then we do not understand how it works, but numerous studies have associated negative ions, especially negatively ionized oxygen, with several health benefits. These include an increased rate and quality of growth in plants and in animals, dilation of the air passageways, and improvement in cleansing action of the lungs, heart rate, blood pressure, and metabolic rate. Mentally, one can experience a sense of exhalation or become more relaxed and mildly tranquil. What we are saying here is that even as we go out into nature, more so in the morning, I pray that we find, on this question of ionized air, one thing I discovered, and it's quite a while I got to know this, is that if one is able to find, like for us as Adventists, we work 5 days a week. Saturday we go to church. Sunday can be, those that work in the office, can be a free day, a family day, but it can also be a recreational day. Even one who is self-employed, living in the country. So what am I driving at? If only you would identify some waterfall, some place that has a waterfall. And for guys that are in Zambia, you can plan to visit Victoria Falls. Yes, what do you call it? Smoking Falls or something like that. That water, as the water falls from a high level, the water becomes ionized. And we are told that to sit next to a waterfall will do you wonders. It will, soothe your soul in a manner that you may never understand in this life. Something that we only understand in heaven. So negative ions are lost as they adhere to the walls, fabric materials, and air conditioning ducts. Tobacco smoke, and crowds of people tend to use them up too. So when we live in congested places in the city, we travel in trains, crowd, get caught up in crowds in the supermarkets, etc. We miss out on these, ions, these ionized air. But out in the open, we get a lot of it. Oxygen is the most crucial element for our survival. We can survive weeks without food, days without water, but only minutes without oxygen. Yet, because of shallow breathing habits, we can deny ourselves optimal levels of oxygen for better health. Early signs of insufficient oxygen are impaired judgment, memory loss, dulling of intellect. The intellect becomes dull, and a tendency to impatience and irritability. Yes, you may have been a very cool fella to your wife, to your husband, to your children, but over time they begin to tell you that, daddy, you are changing. We do not know you to to be quite irritable. So it's time to consider your ways. You need a break to go into the open. To nature. Many people are forced to stoop or sit for too much, for such long time or many hours of the day. This usually makes for poor posture and causes many back problems. Maintaining good posture, taking stretch breaks often, and getting exercise whenever you can will help. People who work in the offices and not just offices and before a computer. And the computer is very engaging, quite engaging. You may not realize that you are sitting 4 or 5 hours through, through and through, with your gaze on the screen, and until you begin to suffer swelling in your feet. So it is important that we rise up from the chair and pace up the room, even walk out a bit. We need this stretching. Remember, when walking, to visualize that string again, to visualize that string again supporting you from the top of your head, and thus avoid walking with your neck thrust forward, thus interfering with breathing. After all, even if your nose does get there first, nothing much will be done until the rest of your lives, So, it's on a light note. As we walk, you cannot tend to hunch, and kind of lean forward, but walk straight. As I finish on this very good topic of exercise, let me put it this way. A good aerobic exercise program combined with muscle toning and stretching exercises is necessary for good health, besides being an aid to proper breathing and maintaining a strong set of lungs. So here I want to look at an area that is very close to my heart, very close to my heart. Tight clothing around the chest or abdomen makes proper breathing difficult, as does restrictive clothing that that does not allow the free movement of the arms above the head. I have a serious problem with our, our sisters, the ladies, and more so these young girls that we have in our, in the church, even in our places of work, and those that we meet in the streets and in other areas. When a lady puts on tight clothes, that affects even their, their cycle. And no wonder these, what do you call them? Something, freeze and shine. Yes, freeze and shine. The girls want to wear very thinly, yet the weather does not allow that, but she would rather freeze, with the skin tells you that she's feeling cold, but she still opts to leave the house with sleeveless dress or sleeveless blouse, etc. There is something called a stomach cut. Here in Swahili, they call it a tubo cut, that only covers the chest, but the navel area is left bare, and then very tight pants. And come that very particular, that specific time of the month, they are always at the chemist going for painkillers. Only that they didn't, if only they would know that their dressing is causing them the problem. So it is better for women to avoid the unhealthful fashion of tight bras and wear a camisole or other shirt instead. No more deep breathing aids digestion by massaging the abdominal organs. Blood is assisted in its return to the chest by the negative pressure that is developed with each deep breath. This pressure helps to reduce the chances of congestion, that is headaches, the pooling of blood in the legs, and aids in the digestive process. Deep breathing gets more oxygen into the blood with each breath, allowing the heart to slow down a little. And, when the heart slows down, it rests. And that is good for its health. A good habit is to go outside in the fresh air and to take 10 to 20 slow, deep abdominal breaths after each meal and just before retiring for the night. And as we enjoy this time of relaxation, we can give thanks to our Creator God. That is, give God that giveth breath unto the people, remembering that He giveth to all life and breath and all things. So let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord. Isaiah 42 verse 5 and Acts 17 verse 25. Psalms 150 verse 6. And that is how important exercise is. Any question? We have 10 minutes to finish.
All right, I have a contribution or a comment to make. Thank you very
Please.
much for this wonderful lesson. Indeed, these are our doctors, or what we call the 8 doctors that God has given us. That when we follow these steps that is we are learning now, we shall be able to preserve our healthy. And one thing we must appreciate about air is that you discover times when someone is sick, not because they have injured anything, it is because simply they have been lacking oxygen in their lungs, even though they breathe, but they lack oxygen. So it matters how we breathe, and we must understand that breathing is not only taking in air, but we must understand that we must have that exercise in the morning when we wake up, especially for those that are living in places where there are trees, that when we wake up in the morning, we at least spend some time and we breathe like we have been learning today. We breathe through our nostrils, and then we exhale air through our mouth, and we take some minutes in between our breathing. So it helps the air to get into the lungs and then eliminate the carbon dioxide even through the mouth like that. So it helps to promote healthy, and it helps us even to have enough and quality air even to enter our brain, and helps us even to think and do all things in a good way. So we must be able to understand all the steps, and also the way we dress. I've seen people, the way they've, even men, like the way they'll put on their belts, they are too tight, like the stomach. Sometimes they even cause stress to these organs, and thus making the body to be in a very bad condition, even to breathe and do other things. So you must be able to know how to dress, how to breathe, how to exercise, and this is the only way that our health will be preserved. How to have temperance and all those things. So we must be able to understand these laws of health, these lessons on air, because without air we cannot live. So we must be able to understand that even sometimes when you have headaches, it's not because we do not have water, but because we have not been inhaling nice or fresh air. So there are times when you have headache, you just go and maybe sit near a tree where there's fresh air, and then you'll be surprised how that headache will go. So sometimes we get sick not because we have injured ourselves, but because we've been violating the laws of health. So we must be able to put all these lessons we're learning today, that we've been learning through these series of lessons, into practice, and we'll be able to appreciate and be able to see how our health will be preserved in a very good way and without causing any harm or danger upon ourselves. So that was my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Enos. Any other contribution? Or a question?
All right, so if there are no questions, we can end here.